Joining us now on Fútbol América is the president of Liga MX, Mikel Arriola. Very busy man with lots on his plate right now. Mikel, we really do appreciate your time. Welcome, bienvenido al show.
Thank you very much, Sebastián, Hercules, and great to see the American fans of Liga MX.
So, Mikel, as you know, we would usually have you on the show. We'd be talking about the fusion between Major League Soccer and Liga MX, but we have to focus on what happened recently in Querétaro. As you know, I don't need to tell you this, there's a lot of Liga MX fans here in the United States. I think all of us were kind of horrified by what we saw. But I want to get your perspective. You're the man in charge of it. Emotionally, what were you feeling? What were you thinking when you saw those images for the first time come out of Querétaro?
Well, we were also horrified. We were very sad because these kind of things should never happen in Liga MX. This level of violence was, I think, that not seen in the past. This was very sad for us, but my obligation as the president of the Liga MX is to act. First, to investigate what happened, who is responsible of these terrible facts or terrible events, and then sanction. So on Sunday, I went to Querétaro. We tried to rebuild or reconstruct the fact by fact what happened in Querétaro since Friday, because we started the game one day before by means of our protocol, of a safety protocol. And what we found out was that there was a huge mistake of the club by means of working with this private security company that was in charge of the pitch and was in charge of the stadium, of the interior of the stadium, and that they never appeared when this started to happen. So we investigated by means of our Sanctions Commission, and during Monday and Tuesday, we were able to find out which parties were responsible. And one of the causes, of the main causes, was that irresponsibility in terms of contracting this private company. And second, the barra of Querétaro and the barra of Atlas. They were very violent, and they were covered by not transparenting or not opening their identities. So that's why we generated an extraordinary session of our board on Tuesday, and we took several decisions. First, we banned the visiting barras for life. We will not receive barras of the visiting teams from here to the future. And then we also generate sanctions or future or potential sanctions to the teams if they have any relationship with these barras. We banned these relationships where the clubs could pay the tickets to the barras or they pay the transportation to the barras. This is banned from Tuesday for the future. And we were able to generate this very, I think, hard sanctions that will generate, I think, a much higher level of safety in the stadiums. So that's what we did on the past days.
Mikel, the images are so bad, so hard to watch. It makes the official reports of no death very hard to believe for many. What would you say to those who are skeptical, those who still have doubts about the official reports?
Well, Hercules, we saw the images, and you could believe whatever number of deaths they could tell you. And unfortunately, some journalists issued an unofficial number of deaths, and that contributed to this kind of non-confidence with the official numbers. I went to the office of the governor on Sunday, And I directly asked that question to the governor of Querétaro. And he told me that he had a list of 26 injured, and the gravity of those injured were around 10 of them were serious, and then they were administering their state of health during those days. I was informed today that the last of the injured is going to go out of the hospital in the following days. So that's good news. And our confidence is on the official sources, Hercules. We are not a public entity, so we have to trust. And we trust, and we also know that there are no missing persons now. No one is searching for missing persons on that stadium on that day, on the 5th of March.
Mikel, let's talk a little bit about some of the sanctions that you did hand down last Tuesday. There was some discussion before the meeting on Tuesday that maybe we would see the end of Querétaro, the end of Gallos Blancos. Why did you decide to allow Querétaro to continue existing as it is?
It was the end of the board, no? And we also ordered the sale of the team, no? The administrator now is obliged to sell the team to a third party. Why we didn't ban Querétaro as a club? Because the effects or the negative effects would be, I think, not related with the causes of the problem. Because if we close Querétaro, we would close around 15,000 sources of employment, considering also players, the women's team, players that come from under 13, under 15, under 17, under 20. These categories would have died. And also, the sanction would be directed not to the responsibles, which are the violent, but to the fans. It was unfair for Querétaro's fans to lose their team due to a fact that this is not related with their responsibility. So that's why we took these very strict sanctions, banning the members of the board, the members of the administration, the management, but not sanctioning the fans or the players.
Mikel, you went as far as banning these barras, these traveling barras, the away team barras. Why not ban barras in general? All barras, no barras in any game, whether it's a home team or an away team?
Well, these barras, Hercules, are not covered by our regulation, by our definitions. We talk about animation groups, if you can translate it like that. And animation groups in the 80s or the 90s were the very traditional Mexican supporters, the Chiquitibum, and that was contaminated by barras. So we want to ban barras, and this is the beginning of the end of barras, because we are going to attack them by means of generating identities, Hercules. If criminals don't open their identities, they will not be a part of any animation group. So what I have to say is, we have on the 24th our very important match against the US here in the Estadio Azteca. We are going to generate a fan ID by means of the federation. And if you don't have a fan ID, you cannot enter to the stadium. That's what we're going to do with these animation groups or these barras, and that's going to be the end of the participation of criminals in these support groups or these fan groups.
So we didn't see the barras, Mikel, banned entirely, but we did see, for instance, in the Clásico Nacional, Chivas chose not to have their barra present. We saw Necaxa play the game without fans. What did you think of those decisions, of the club saying, we're going to put the barras to one side for now, when the league didn't go that far?
Well, we're going that far by means of implementing our fan ID. No, we don't want to lose the supporters, the fans, the traditional fans. But I totally agree with the teams that are now banning their own barras, Chivas, and we are now working with a couple of other teams to ban directly their barras. So we're working in parallel. We're working in implementing these security measures by means of implementing technology to open the identity of the assistants to the games, and with the teams that are now open to end with these support groups, we're supporting them also to do that. But what's our main goal? Our main goal for the next season is to have the fan ID implemented in every stadium for every fan. If you go back to the 80s, Sebastian, and you see what happened in the English league, it was not Premier League, in the English league, they banned these hooligans by means of generating these blacklists. They wanted to know the identity of these supporters, and they separated the good from the bad. They were having around 15 million fans every year after this, in this violent scenario. And now the Premier League is having around 30 million fans every year in their stadiums. We want to change like that. We want to exchange these criminals for families, for traditional fans that we have around 60 million in the United States.
Miguel, this incident between Querétaro and Atlas happened on March 5th. You decided to go on with the league 8 days later and continue to do so. Do you feel that you can guarantee the safety of fans in attendance at these matches from here on out?
Yes, Hercules, we can do it. This is a very robust task. We can handle it. This scenario that we lived in Querétaro was the most difficult scenario that any league could face. In this last weekend, we managed to send a very positive message of being united, being a stronger united. We generated these protocols where the players send a message to the fans. We were able to implement this ban of the visiting barras. We were able to reduce the level of confrontation between the teams. So we're going to continue doing that, and we're going to prove to the world that not only Liga MX has the capacity to change in positive, but also Mexican fans. We say that in Spanish, we say ya basta to violence, and we're going to continue with that policy, and we are going to evolve in positive and to guarantee for the future the best scenario for our families, for our fans, for our teams, and for the development of our league.
Mikel, the violence that we saw on Saturday was so extreme that I think it raised fears for a lot of people that organized crime may have infiltrated these barras. Do you share any of those fears?
Well, I am very close to the attorney of Querétaro because, as you may know, the investigation is evolving, and the conclusions of the investigations are going to be very interesting for us to see what happened on that March the 5th, because there are several hypotheses. But I think that the Attorney General, with the testimony of the people that are now in custody, this Attorney General has the capacity to generate the conclusion on what happened, because we have never seen before this level of violence in a stadium in Mexico. So I'm going to wait for that to happen.
Mikel, it seems like Liga MX and MLS are working closer and closer every single year. I'm curious as to what you've heard from your MLS counterparts. Are they worried about what's going on?
Of course, we have been talking a lot since Saturday Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, they were aware that the Mexican League and the Mexican Federation have the regulations and the institutions in order to solve these kind of problems by means of generating sanctions and by means of generating preventive measures. So we have been, as we have always been, very connected, very communicated, and we have been obviously continuing with the development of our partnership.
Mikel, it's not just the violence that we saw on Saturday. There's also kind of the underlying story of the homophobic chant that's been haunting Mexican soccer. When you start to add all those things up, do you get a sense that the people who are in charge of Mexican soccer are in any way afraid that all that might impact Mexico's hosting of the 2026 World Cup?
I don't think so, because we have generated the evidence, as I said, that we have the capacity to solve our own problems. We have the capacity to obtain or to be successful as candidates for the venue in 2026, and we will maintain that. We also have the capacity to communicate with CONCACAF, with FIFA. So I think that these kind of experiences that are there and can happen to everyone, to every federation or every league, we have to face them with responsibility and with capacity. And I underline that we have it. We have the institutions and we have the regulations, and we have evidence that in a matter of 1 week, we have been or generating results and generating confidence.
Mikel, I'm wondering if you have a message for many of the fans of Liga MX that you have here in the United States who are maybe thinking about going to a game at Estadio Azteca, U.S. men's national team versus Mexico, or a future Liga MX game, who are maybe concerned about their safety. Any message for these fans?
Well, that they can be sure that safety is guaranteed. I was on Saturday, I was in Estadio Azteca. The scenario there is safe, it's guaranteed. Also, I went to the Bombonera in Toluca, and we're going to work permanently to guarantee safety. And with technology, I think that we will be confident that we're very close to our fan, and we're going to and generating a database that could be shared not only for safety or security matters, but that could maybe be useful for the fan, for commercial purposes, for fan engagement, to buy several things that we sell in the stadium, for the comfort of the fans.
There he is, Mikel Arriola, the president of Liga MX, joining us here on Fútbol Américas. Mikel, we know you're a busy guy. Thanks so much for the time, and hope to have you back here on the show soon.
Sebastián Hercules, thank you very much to you, and I am open every time to talk to you guys. Goodbye.